The warning lights flashed red across the giant space station called Nexus Prime. Captain Hana ran through the metal corridors, her boots making loud sounds on the floor. She had never seen the Galactic Council call an emergency meeting before. In her 10 years of service, the galaxy had been peaceful. Nothing bad ever happened. Until now. The meeting room was huge. 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that glowed with blue light. At the center stood Vextar, the council leader. He was tall and made of crystal that sparkled like diamonds. His voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke. "We are here because something terrible has been found," Vextar said. His crystal body grew brighter as he became more serious. "Captain, Hana will tell us what her team discovered." Hana walked to the center of the room. She felt nervous with all the alien eyes watching her. The Veltari people looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin. They were known for being brave explorers. That's why they sent her team to check the outer rim of the galaxy. 3 weeks ago, my ship found something wrong, Hana began. We were mapping new star systems when we came across dead planets. Not just one or two. We found 15 worlds that had been destroyed. She pressed a button on her wrist device. The air above the table filled with pictures of ruined planets. The aliens around the table made worried sounds. Some covered their eyes. Others leaned forward to look closer. The first picture showed a world covered in glass. What used to be cities were now smooth, melted surfaces that reflected starlight. The second picture showed oceans that had been boiled away, leaving only empty basins full of salt. The third showed continents that had been cracked apart like broken eggs. These worlds were not destroyed by war, Hana continued. There are no bomb craters, no signs of fighting. It looks like something much worse happened. Something that killed everything at once. Dr. Jiho stood up from his seat. He was shorter than most aliens in the room, with gray skin and large black eyes. The Kethvar people were known for being very smart. Jiho was the best scientist in the galaxy when it came to studying old civilizations. "I went to these worlds myself," Jiho said. "I studied the ruins. I found something very interesting. All these dead planets belong to the same species. They called themselves humans." A low murmur went around the table. Most of the aliens had heard stories about humans. They were an old race that had disappeared 20,000 years ago. Most people thought they had destroyed themselves in a war. Jiho pressed his own button. New pictures appeared in the air. These showed buildings that looked different from anything the current galaxy used. They were made of steel and glass, built in straight lines and sharp angles. There were roads, for vehicles with wheels instead of hover platforms. There were pictures of the humans themselves, pale-skinned creatures that looked similar to Veltari but shorter and stockier. Humans spread across many star systems very quickly, Jiho explained. They built cities on planets that other species wanted. They took resources without asking permission. They were aggressive and dangerous. That's why they disappeared. We always thought they destroyed themselves in a big war. Commander Tyek suddenly stood up. He was from the warrior species called the Gorth-Ani. They looked like giant lizards, with thick armor on their skin. Tyek was the head of all military forces for the Galactic Council. His yellow eyes glowed when he was worried. "The humans did not destroy themselves," Tyek said in his deep, growling voice. "Something else destroyed them, and now that something is coming back." The room became very quiet. Even the soft humming of the space station's machines seemed too loud. Tyek activated a large screen on the wall. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of tiny lights representing star systems. At the edge of the map, a red dot was moving slowly toward the center. "Our long-range sensors detected this object 5 days ago," Tyek explained. "It came from the direction of the dead human worlds. It's huge, bigger than any ship we've ever built, and it's heading straight for our core systems." Vexatar's crystal body flashed bright white. This meant he was very scared. "What kind of object? A weapon? An asteroid?" "We don't know," Tyke admitted. "It's too far away to scan properly. But it's moving in a straight line. That means it's not natural. Something is controlling it." Captain Hana looked at the screen more carefully. The red dot was still very far away, but its path was clear. It would reach the first council colonies in about 6 months. "Could it be a human ship?" she asked. Dr. Jiho shook his head. "Impossible. Humans have been extinct for 20,000 years." Their technology was much simpler than ours. They couldn't build something that large. But Hana wasn't so sure. During her exploration of the dead worlds, she had noticed something strange. The ruins looked like they had been abandoned quickly. Houses still had furniture inside. Factories had been left running. It was like the humans had packed up and left in a hurry. "Dr. Jiho," she said, "when you studied the ruins, did you find any bodies?" Jiho paused. His large black eyes blinked slowly. "No, we found no human remains at all. That's actually quite unusual for a destroyed civilization." "What if they weren't destroyed?" Hana asked. "What if they escaped?" The room erupted in noise. Aliens talked loudly in their different languages. Some laughed at the idea, others looked worried. Vextar had to make his body flash bright red to get everyone to be quiet. "That's impossible," said Council Member Rithva, a floating jellyfish-like creature. "Where would they go? We control the entire galaxy. There's nowhere to hide." Commander Tyke's yellow eyes grew brighter. "Unless they went outside the galaxy." The room became quiet again. Going outside the galaxy was considered impossible. Abror. Space between galaxies was empty and cold. Nothing could survive there for long. No species had ever tried to leave their home galaxy. "We need to prepare for the worst," Vextar decided. "Commander Tyke, move 3 defense fleets to intercept this object. If it is dangerous, we must stop it before it reaches populated systems." Tyke nodded. "I'll send our best ships. Admiral Kyung can lead the fleet." As the meeting ended, the aliens began to leave. But Hana stayed behind with Dr. Jiho. She had more questions about the dead worlds. "Jiho," she said quietly, "there's something else I didn't mention in the meeting. On the last world we visited, I found something." She showed him a small metal object. It was triangular and had strange markings on it. The metal looked old but was still shiny. "This was buried under one of their buildings," Hana explained. "The markings aren't like their normal writing. And look at this." She pointed to a series of numbers carved into the metal. "These look like coordinates." Jiho took the object and studied it carefully. "Coordinates to where?" "Outside the galaxy," Hana whispered. "I checked. These numbers point to empty space beyond our furthest sensors." Jiho's eyes went wide. "You think this is a map? A way to follow them?" "Maybe. Or maybe it's a warning. Maybe they left this for whoever found their worlds. A message telling us that they're still out there." Both of them looked up at the ceiling, imagining the vast space beyond the station. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something was coming home. And after 20,000 years of silence, humanity might not be happy about what they found when they returned. The red warning. Lights continued to flash throughout Nexus Prime. The galaxy's peaceful age was about to end. Admiral Kyung stood on the bridge of his flagship, Sovereign Dawn. Through the large windows, he could see 49 other Council ships spread out in perfect formation. Each ship represented the best technology from 12 different alien species. Together, they formed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. The object they came to investigate hung in space like a giant metal mountain. It was dark and silent, showing no signs of life. The ship was longer than 3 Council vessels put together and wider than any space station. Its hull was covered in scars from thousands of years floating through empty space. "It's definitely a ship," reported Chief Engineer Minho from his station. He was a Veltari like Captain Hana, but he specialized in studying alien technology. "The design is completely unknown. The metal is some kind of alloy we've never seen before." Admiral Kyung walked closer to the window. The Gorthani people were natural warriors, but they were also curious about new things. This ghost ship was the most interesting thing he had seen in his long career. "Any signs of life?" he asked. "Nothing," replied the sensor officer. "No heat signatures, no electrical activity, no movement. It's been dead for a very long time." The ghost ship looked ancient. Its surface was pitted with tiny holes from space rocks that had hit it over many thousands of years. Some parts of the hull had been twisted by the cold of deep space. It looked like a tomb floating among the stars. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Nara, "we're receiving a message from Dr. Jiho's research ship. He wants permission to board the alien vessel." Kyung nodded. Tell him he can take a small team aboard, but I want full safety protocols. We don't know what kind of traps might be waiting inside. As they watched, a small shuttle left Dr. Jiho's ship and flew toward the ghost ship. The shuttle looked tiny next to the massive vessel, like a bug landing on a whale. The shuttle found what looked like a docking bay and disappeared inside. For 2 hours, nothing happened. The fleet waited patiently while Jiho's team explored the inside of the mysterious ship. Then suddenly the comm system crackled to life. "Admiral!" Jiho's voice sounded excited and worried at the same time. "You need to see this. The ship isn't empty. There are machines everywhere, and the architecture. It matches the ruins we found on the dead worlds. This is definitely a human vessel." Kyung felt his warrior instincts wake up. Humans were supposed to be extinct. What was their ship doing out here? "Are there any bodies?" Kyung asked. "No bodies, but there are sleeping chambers. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They're all empty now, but they were used recently, within the last few years." "That's impossible," Minho said from his station. "Humans disappeared 20,000 years ago." But before anyone could answer, every alarm on the bridge started screaming at once. The lights changed from normal white to emergency red. Sensor displays showed impossible readings. "Admiral!" the sensor officer shouted. "The alien ship is powering up!" Through the window, they watched the ghost ship come alive. Lights began, glowing along its hull in patterns they had never seen before. Energy readings spiked higher than anything their instruments could measure. The dead ship was waking up after its long sleep. "All ships, battle stations," Kyung ordered. "Raise shields, charge weapons." But even as he gave the command, he knew their weapons would be useless. The energy coming from the human ship was beyond anything the Council had ever encountered. It was like comparing a candle to a star. Deep inside the ghost ship, ancient computers finished their startup sequence. Machines that had slept for decades began working again. Life support systems filled the corridors with warm air. Gravity generators created normal weight throughout the massive vessel. And in the command center, a man opened his eyes. Captain Dong-Su had been in suspended sleep for 37 years. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. His uniform was black with silver markings that showed his rank. On his chest was a patch that said, "United Earth Defense Force," in letters that no living alien had ever seen. Dong-Su stood, up slowly, stretching muscles that had been still for decades. Around him, other humans were waking up from their own sleep chambers. They moved with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew. No one spoke. They all knew what they had to do. "Status. Report," Dong-Su said calmly. "All systems online, Captain," replied his first officer, a woman named Lieutenant Inha. "We are in the HFY system as planned. Long-range sensors show a large fleet surrounding us." "How large?" 50 ships, sir. They appear to be from the current Galactic Council. Multiple species represented." Dong-Su walked to the main viewing screen and activated it. The image showed the Council fleet spread out in attack formation. Their ships looked sleek and modern compared to the ancient, human vessel. But appearances could be deceiving. "Open a communication channel," Dong-Su ordered. "Channel open, sir." Dong-Su straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. The words he said would change the galaxy forever. "This is Captain Dong-Su of the United Earth Defense Force vessel Eternal Vigil. To the alien fleet surrounding us, you have 30 seconds to withdraw to a safe distance." On the bridge of Sovereign Dawn, Admiral Kyung stared at the communication screen in shock. The human looked young, maybe 40 years old, but his eyes were older, much older. They held the weight of someone who had seen terrible things. "This is Admiral Kyung of the Galactic Council Fleet," he replied. "You are trespassing in Council space. Identify yourself and state your intentions." Dong-Su smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Admiral, my people have been away for a long time. We've come back to reclaim what was taken from us. I suggest you contact your superiors and tell them that humanity has returned." "Humanity has been extinct for 20,000 years, Kyung said. "Extinct?" Dong-Su's smile grew wider. "No, Admiral. We've been waiting, learning, growing stronger. And now, we're ready to finish what our ancestors started. The human captain made a gesture to someone off-screen. Suddenly, the Eternal Vigil's weapon systems came online. Energy readings went completely off the scale. The human ship's guns were pointing directly at the Council fleet. "Admiral," Minho whispered urgently, "their weapons are generating more power than our entire fleet combined. This is impossible technology." Dongsu spoke again. "As a demonstration of our capabilities, observe." He pointed to a large asteroid floating nearby. It was the size of a small moon, made of solid rock and metal. The Eternal Vigil fired a single beam of brilliant blue light. The asteroid simply vanished. No explosion, no debris. It was there one moment and gone the next, as if it had never existed. The Council fleet's sensors went crazy trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The weapon the humans used operated on principles that violated everything they knew about physics. "You have our attention," Admiral Kyung said quietly. "Good," Dongsu replied. "Now you will withdraw to a distance of 1,000,000 kilometers and send a message to your council. Tell them that humanity demands a meeting. We have much to discuss." "And if we refuse?" Dongsu's expression didn't change. "Admiral, my ship could destroy your entire fleet without effort. But we're not here to start a war. We're here to end one. A war that began 20,000 years ago when your predecessors tried to wipe us out." The communication ended. The viewing screen went dark. Admiral Kyung stood in silence, trying to process what had just happened. Around him, his crew worked frantically to analyze the human technology, but their instruments couldn't make sense of it. "Sir," the communications officer said, "what should we tell the council?" Kyung looked out the window at the Eternal Vigil. The human ship hung in space like a sleeping giant. But now he knew it wasn't sleeping. It was watching, waiting, ready to wake up and show the galaxy just how much humanity had learned during their long exile. "Tell them the truth," Kyung said finally. "Tell them that humanity is back, and tell them we're completely outmatched." As the Council fleet slowly withdrew to a safe distance, Captain Dongsu stood alone on his bridge. Through his own viewing screen, he watched the aliens retreat. Soon, the entire galaxy would know that humanity had returned. The question was whether they would choose to listen or choose to fight. Either way, humanity was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for 20,000 years. Deep inside the Eternal Vigil, Captain Dongsu walked through corridors filled with the history of his people. The walls were covered with pictures and documents from 20,000 years ago. As he passed each display, the story of humanity's greatest defeat and greatest triumph played out before his eyes. The first display showed Earth as it once was. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in a perfect atmosphere. Cities of glass and steel stretched from horizon to horizon. Ships moved between the planets of the solar system like schools of metal fish. Humanity had been proud of what they built. Dongsu stopped at a picture of General Sunmi, the woman who had saved their entire species. She stood on the bridge of Earth's greatest warship, her face set in determined lines. Behind her, explosions lit up the darkness of space as human and alien ships fought the first and last interstellar war. The invasion had come without warning. Massive alien ships appeared in Earth's solar system, more advanced than anything humans had ever imagined. The aliens sent a simple message: surrender your worlds and serve us, or be destroyed completely. General Sunmi had given them humanity's answer: never. The war lasted only 6 months. Earth's military fought with everything they had, but the aliens were too strong. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of human science. Their ships could appear anywhere instantly through something called hyperspace travel. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with a single shot. But General Sunmi had a secret weapon that the aliens didn't know about. Dr. Minji had been working on experimental technology in a hidden laboratory on the moon. While Earth's armies fought the hopeless war, she raced to complete her life's work. She had discovered a way to travel faster than light without using the alien hyperspace network. Her ships could go places the aliens had never explored. Dongsu moved to the next display. It showed Dr. Minji's laboratory during the final days of the war. Scientists worked around the clock to build the first generation of human colony ships. These vessels were different from anything that had come before. They used exotic matter and folded space around themselves to achieve impossible speeds. The ships were ugly compared to alien vessels. They looked like giant metal boxes with engines strapped to the sides. But they could do something no alien ship could do. They could travel to the space between galaxies, where no one would ever find them. The Great Evacuation, Dong-su said quietly to himself. The plan had been desperate and heartbreaking. Billions of humans would have to leave their homes forever. They would travel to the dark spaces beyond the galaxy and start over from nothing. It would take generations just to build new worlds. Many would die during the journey, but it was better than extinction. Dong-su stopped at a display showing Captain Young-ho, commander of the last evacuation fleet. His ships were loaded with sleeping families, their bodies frozen to survive the long journey to the galactic rim. Through the windows, Earth burned behind them as alien weapons turned the planet into a lifeless rock. The aliens thought they had won. They believed humanity was extinct. They divided up the human colonies among themselves and erased all records of the species that had dared to resist them. Within a few generations, most aliens forgot that humans had ever existed. But in the cold darkness between galaxies, humanity survived. The first years had been the hardest. The refugee fleets found empty planets orbiting dim red stars. These worlds were cold and hostile, nothing like the green Earth they had left behind. Many colonists died from disease and starvation. Others gave up hope and took their own lives, but the survivors were strong. They built underground cities to protect themselves from radiation. They developed new technologies to grow food in hostile soil. Most importantly, they remembered why they were there. They were there to go home someday. Dong-su continued walking through the ship's memory hall. The displays showed humanity's slow growth during their exile. Generation after generation worked to build a new civilization. They had no contact with the galaxy that had cast them out. They were completely alone in the cosmic void. But being alone had advantages. Humanity could experiment with dangerous technologies without worrying about alien spies. They could take risks that no established civilization would dare, and they had something that drove them forward, the promise of return. The children born in exile grew up hearing stories about Earth. They learned about the green hills and blue skies their grandparents had lost. They were taught that someday, when humanity was strong enough, they would go back and reclaim their birthright. Scientists like Dr. Minji's daughter worked to improve their technology. Each generation made new discoveries. They learned to manipulate dark energy, the mysterious force that pushed the universe apart. They found ways to bend space and time around their ships. They created weapons that could unmake matter at the atomic level. Most importantly, they learned patience. 20,000 years was a long time to wait. Many generations lived and died without ever seeing their ancestral home. But each generation passed down the dream to their children. The dream of return. The dream of justice. The dream of making sure humanity would never again face extinction. Dong-su reached the end of the memory hall. The final display showed the construction of the return fleet, hundreds of ships built in secret shipyards around rogue planets. Each vessel was a masterpiece of technology that no current alien species could match. The Eternal Vigil was just one ship in a fleet that could conquer the galaxy. But conquest wasn't the goal. Justice was the goal. Making sure that what happened to humanity never happened to anyone else. A young woman approached him. Lieutenant Inha had been born on one of the exile worlds. She had never seen Earth except in pictures, but she carried its memory in her heart like all her generation. "Captain," she said, "we're receiving reports from the advanced scouts. The current Galactic Council is nothing like our ancestors' enemies. Most of the species that destroyed Earth are extinct themselves. The galaxy has changed completely." Dong-su nodded. He had expected this. 20,000 years was long enough for entire civilizations to rise and fall. The current aliens probably had no idea what their predecessors had done to humanity. "Does that change our mission?" Inha asked. Dong-su looked at the picture of Earth burning in space. His ancestors had paid the ultimate price for being weak. They had trusted that the galaxy was big enough for everyone. They had believed that other species would respect their right to exist. They had been wrong. "No," Dong-su said firmly. "It doesn't change anything. The current council inherited our worlds. They built their civilization on the bones of ours. They forgot we ever existed. Whether they meant to or not, they benefited from our destruction. And now? Now they learn that actions have consequences. Even actions from 20,000 years ago. Dongsu turned away from the display. Signal the fleet. It's time to begin the next phase. Throughout the dark spaces beyond the galaxy, human ships began to move. They had been waiting in the void for decades, their crews in suspended sleep, their weapons powered down. Now they woke up like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Hundreds of vessels began their journey toward the galactic core. Each ship carried technology that would seem like magic to the current inhabitants of the galaxy. But it wasn't magic. It was the result of 20,000 years of careful preparation. Humanity was coming home, and this time, they would never leave again. Captain Dongsu returned to his bridge and took his command chair. Through the viewing screen, he could see the lights of alien ships in the distance. They thought they were safe behind their shields and armor. They had no idea what humanity had become during the long exile. Begin final approach to the inner systems, Dongsu ordered. It's time to announce our return. The Eternal Vigil moved forward, followed by ghost ships that had haunted the darkness for 20,000 years. The age of exile was ending. The age of reckoning was about to begin. The quantum interface chamber lay deep beneath New Eden's surface like a buried temple from ancient times. Jake Morrison stood with his crew before the massive crystalline structure that hummed with power beyond anything they had ever seen. The crystal was taller than their ship and pulsed with colors that had no names. The air around it felt electric and alive. Crystal's song of ancient wisdom had led them down through miles of tunnels carved from living rock. The Zephyrian's harmonic voice had grown quieter the deeper they went, as if even this wise being felt the weight of what they were about to do. For 20,000 years, this chamber had waited for humans to return. Now 50 confused and tired people stood ready to speak with their own species for the first time in millennia. The interface will connect your minds to the quantum network. Crystal Song explained through musical tones that Arya translated. Your transcended people exist in a realm of pure thought and energy. When you touch the crystal, you will join them temporarily. But be warned, many who have tried this connection have never wanted to return to physical existence. Dr. Lisa Martinez stepped forward with her scanner in hand. The energy readings are incredible. This thing is generating power levels that should be impossible. It's like it's drawing energy from space itself. Because it is, Amy Foster said as she studied the crystal's surface. Look at these patterns. They're not random. This whole structure is designed to fold space and time around itself. It's creating a doorway to another dimension. Jake felt his heart beating fast in his chest. They had come so far to find answers about what happened to humanity. Now those answers were waiting just beyond the crystal's surface. But he was scared. What if the transcended humans tried to force them to join the network? What if they couldn't come back? We do this together, Jake decided. All 50 of us touch the crystal at the same time. If we're going to meet our people, we meet them as a crew. Nick Johnson nodded. Sounds good to me. I've come this far. Not turning back now. Ellen Hayes looked nervous, but determined. What if they don't want to talk to us? What if they see us as primitives who refuse to evolve? Then we deal with that when it happens, Mike Sullivan said. But we'll never know unless we try. The crew formed a circle around the crystal. Jake reached out first and pressed his palm against the smooth surface. It felt warm and seemed to pulse with a heartbeat. One by one, the others joined him until all 50 hands were touching the ancient interface. The world exploded into light and sound and sensation. Jake felt his mind stretched across impossible distances as millions of human consciousnesses touched his thoughts. It was like being caught in a storm of memories and emotions and knowledge. He could feel the joy of transcended humans who had discovered infinite worlds of imagination. He could sense their sadness at leaving the physical universe behind. He could experience their loneliness after millennia of perfect digital existence. Then one voice emerged from the chaos. Strong and clear and familiar in a way that made Jake's soul ache with recognition. It was human, but more than human. Ancient, but somehow young. Welcome home, the voice said. I am Adam Wright. I was one of the architects of transcendence. I have been waiting for you. Jake found his mental voice. We're not here to join you. We're here for answers. What happened to humanity? Why did you leave? Adam's presence felt sad and wise. We left because we thought we had found paradise. Imagine a world where there is no pain, no death, no limit to what you can experience or become. We built machines that could house our consciousness forever. We created virtual realities more beautiful than any physical world. We became gods of our own making. Then why do you sound so sad? Dr. Martinez asked. Because we learned that paradise without struggle is not paradise at all. We gained infinite power but lost our humanity. We can create any experience we want, but we cannot grow or change or face real challenges. We are perfect and immortal and completely stagnant. Sam Brooks spoke up. Are you asking us to join you? No, Adam said, and his voice carried centuries of regret. We are asking you to do what we no longer can. Live. Experience uncertainty. Face real challenges with real consequences. Carry forward what made us human in the first place. The connection showed them images of the transcended realm. Cities of pure light stretching across digital landscapes. Humans who had become beings of energy and thought capable of anything but imprisoned by their own perfection. They could create any world they imagined, but they had lost the ability to be surprised or to grow or to fail and learn from failure. Some of us have begun to realize our mistake, Adam continued. We wanted to escape the human condition, but the human condition was what made us special. The struggle, the uncertainty, the constant growth through adversity. We threw it all away for an empty paradise. Kate Powell asked the question they were all thinking. Can you come back? Can you return to physical bodies? A few have tried. But after so many years in the network, physical existence feels like torture. We have become dependent on our digital paradise. We cannot return, but we can help you carry our legacy forward in a better way. Amy Foster felt excited despite her fear. You could share your knowledge with us, give us the technology and wisdom you've gained without forcing us to transcend. Yes, Adam said. We can download selective knowledge into your minds while leaving you essentially human. You would gain 20,000 years of technological advancement while remaining capable of growth and change. You would become bridges between our realm and the physical universe. Jake felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. They could become more than human while staying human. They could carry the best of both worlds forward, but it was a risk. What if the process changed them too much? What if they lost themselves in the process? We need time to think, Jake said. Of course, but know this. You 50 are not just survivors. You are the future of humanity itself. Whatever you choose will determine whether our species remains trapped in digital paradise or finds a way to reclaim its place among the stars. The connection faded, and the crew found themselves back in the crystal chamber. They were still human, still physical, still themselves. But they had seen what humanity had become and what it could become again. The choice was theirs to make. Jake Morrison stood in the quantum chamber staring at the crystal that could change everything. His crew waited behind him in silence. The decision felt too big for one person, but somehow it had fallen to him. They could join the transcended, humans, and live forever in digital paradise. They could walk away and remain the last 50 physical humans in the galaxy. Or they could try something that had never been attempted before. We're not going to transcend, Jake said finally. But we're not going to abandon our people either. Adam, can you really give us knowledge without taking away what makes us human? Adam Wright's voice came through the crystal interface, warm and hopeful. Yes. We have developed techniques to download selective information into biological minds. You would gain access to technologies and knowledge developed over 20,000 years. But you would remain fundamentally human with the ability to grow and change and face uncertainty. Dr. Lisa Martinez stepped forward. What are the risks? What could go wrong? The process might cause temporary disorientation. Some recipients have reported strange dreams for several weeks afterward. But no permanent damage has ever occurred. You would still be yourselves, just with expanded capabilities. Amy Foster looked excited despite her nervousness. What kind of technologies are we talking about? What could we learn? Everything we discovered in our digital realm. Adam explained. Faster than light travel methods that use quantum tunnels instead of traditional engines. Technologies that can convert matter to energy and back again. Methods for communicating across impossible distances instantly. Techniques for building ships that exist partially in our dimension and partially in yours. Jake felt his mind spinning with possibilities. With that kind of knowledge, 50 humans could rebuild civilization across the galaxy. They could explore worlds that no physical being had ever seen. They could make contact with alien species, as equals instead of primitives stumbling through space with ancient technology. I'll go first, Jake decided. If something goes wrong, the rest of you can choose differently. But if it works, we'll all take the upgrade. No, Ben Taylor said firmly. We're a crew. We do this together or not at all. That's how we've always done things. The others nodded in agreement. Ellen Hayes spoke for all of them. Jake's right about one thing, though. Someone should test it first. But it should be someone who volunteers, not someone who feels responsible for everyone else. I'll do it, Amy Foster said before anyone could argue. I'm the engineer. If this technology integration goes wrong, I'm the most likely person to understand what happened and help fix it. Jake wanted to argue, but Amy was already walking toward, the crystal. She placed both hands on its surface and closed her eyes. Adam, I'm ready. Show me what humanity learned in 20,000 years. The crystal blazed with light so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. Amy's body went rigid as energy flowed through her. Colors that had no names danced around her like living things. For long minutes, she stood frozen while data flowed from the transcended realm into her biological brain. Then the light faded, and Amy collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Jake rushed to her side, but she held up a hand to stop him. When she looked up, her eyes held depths that hadn't been there before. She looked like Amy, but somehow more than Amy. It worked, she whispered. I can see how everything connects. Space and time and energy and matter. I understand technologies that we never dreamed were possible, but I'm still me. I still feel human. I still care about all of you and want to explore the galaxy and build things with my own hands. Jake helped her stand. How do you feel? Are you okay? I feel like I just learned 20,000 years worth of science in 20 minutes. My head hurts, and I keep seeing equations that I never studied before. But I'm still Amy Foster from Detroit, who loves fixing broken machines and terrible coffee. One by one, the rest of the crew took their turn at the crystal. Each person emerged changed, but still themselves. Nick Johnson gained knowledge of navigation techniques that used quantum mechanics to chart courses through folded space. Ellen Hayes learned communication methods that could reach across dimensions. Mike Sullivan discovered weapons and defense, technologies that could protect them from threats they couldn't even imagine yet. When the last crew member finished the process, Adam's voice came through the crystal one final time. You are no longer just the last humans. You are the first of something new, bridges between the transcended and the physical, carriers of our knowledge, but keepers of your humanity. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. What do we do now? Where do we go from here? Anywhere you choose, Adam said. The galaxy is full of civilizations that have never met physical humans. They know us only as the transcended builders who left ruins and mysteries behind. You can show them what we were before we made our great mistake. Crystal Song of Ancient Wisdom. Approached them as the connection with the transcended realm faded. The Zephyrian Empire offers you alliance and friendship. We have ships and resources that we will share freely. Help us explore the galaxy together. Jake looked at his crew. They looked back at him with trust and determination, and something new in their eyes. Hope. Real hope, for the first time since they had awakened from their long sleep. Computer, prepare the ship for departure, Jake ordered. Set course for the Galactic core. If there are other species out there who face the same choice between transcendence and humanity, we need to find them. Acknowledged. Course plotted. Estimated travel time with new quantum drive technology. 6 months. Amy Foster smiled as new knowledge flowed through her enhanced mind. Jake, with what I've learned, I can upgrade our engines. We could make that trip in 6 weeks instead of 6 months. Then do it, Jake said. We've got a galaxy to explore and people to meet. The age of isolation is over. Humanity is going back to the stars. As the Defiance lifted off from New Eden with its hybrid crew of humans and Zephyrians, Jake watched the planet fall away below them. They were no longer the last survivors of a dead species. They were the first representatives of a new kind of humanity, one that had learned wisdom from loss and gained strength from struggle. Behind them in the quantum realm, 20 billion transcended humans watched their ambassadors depart and felt something they hadn't experienced in millennia. Pride in what they had once been and hope for what they might become again through these 50 brave souls who had chosen the harder path. The galaxy was about to rediscover humanity, and this time they would be ready.